Hudson Yards is one of the craziest and most expensive real estate development projects the United States has ever seen. It used to be an old 28-acre rail yard, but then a big developer bought it and started construction at the site back in 2012. Development consists of luxury apartments, a hotel, office space, a mall, and an arts center, and this is only phase one. Estimates say that it cost around $25 billion, making it one of the most expensive development projects in history. Even though this project is super impressive, and on the surface it looks like a smashing success, one of the main residential skyscrapers built in there has actually been trying to unload units for years, but the tower to this day is still sitting half empty. You would think that when there's this new, exciting, awesome development project that basically created a new neighborhood in Manhattan, that buyers would be flocking to it. That hasn't been the case so far with 35 Hudson Yards, and at this point the developer is slashing the prices of many of the units. Some are being sold at almost half of the original asking price. Today, let's try to figure out exactly why all of these condo units aren't selling. Now, before we look at the actual units that are in Hudson Yards, either currently for sale and kind of having a hard time selling, or the ones that have recently sold for a big discount, I first want to kind of geek out on the whole development side of this project and talk about how this whole development came to be, because I'm not going to lie, it's pretty interesting. So like I said, this site was originally a rail yard, but there's been some redevelopment proposals here for a long time. In 1956, a guy named William Zeckendorf proposed to build a 1,750-foot skyscraper, which would have made for the tallest building in the world at the time, but he wasn't able to secure financing for the deal. In the 1980s, both the Yankees and the Jets wanted to build new stadiums at this site, but those never went through either. Then fast forward to the early 2000s, and there was talks about an Olympic stadium or a convention center going here, along with a bunch of apartments and office space. But in 2005, the city actually received the funds to extend the trains and railways out to this site. So they really wanted to see something happen here at this point, and that is when they put out a request for proposals. A request for a proposal, or an RFP, is basically the city saying that they are requesting all of the big developers in the area to propose what they would do with this site. Well, 5 developers responded: related companies, Vornado, Brookfield, Extell Development, and Tishman Speyer. All of their submissions were very detailed. Vornado said that they would build 13 towers with 6 million square feet of office and 6,500 residential units. Extell said that they'd build 11 towers with only 2 office buildings, 3,800 residential units, and almost 20 acres of outdoor space. Brookfield wanted to build 15 towers, which would be 4 office, 11 residential, and they would include 400 devoted affordable housing units. Tishman Speyer proposed 11 towers, which would have had 4 big office towers in the middle, surrounded by 7 smaller residential buildings. And then there was Related, who said they wanted to build 13 towers, which would include 3 office, 10 residential, and they would also include 15 acres of open space. We usually focus on much smaller individual residential development type projects here on the channel, and it's just so cool to dive into a commercial project and understand how the city works with these developers to get these projects done. I mean, we're talking about 5 different companies who are basically going head to head on a project that's going to cost them billions and billions of dollars and at least a decade to pull off. This is big business. Initially, Tishman Speyer won the job, but their financing unfortunately fell through, so it was off to the races for Related Company to build out the biggest real estate development project the United States has ever seen. There is so much more to the development story, but for the sake of time, for today's episode, we're just going to stop there and fast forward to today. At this point, the project in total is about half built. You can see on the map here, this section between 10th and 11th, this is where the development of Hudson Yards has happened so far. This was phase 1 and included that art center, a bunch of shops, some restaurants, the office towers, and the residential buildings. Phase 2 is going to be built out in this region, and that's supposed to be done by, I think, 2027 last I read. Back to phase 1 though, the art center is this building that they call the Shed. It's a pretty cool looking space with a retractable shell that wraps around the building. Then most of you guys have probably seen or heard of the Vessel. This was more of an art installation than anything else, but it's unfortunately closed to the public at this time. Then dropping down to Street View, this area feels like New York for sure. You've got people everywhere, skyscrapers in every direction, but when you experience this region in person, it definitely has its own identity compared to other parts of the city. With Hudson Yards seeming like a smashing success so far with the build out, the jobs created, the architecture, and the general positive press, let's get into the story of these residential units that aren't selling exactly as expected. See, we've got two skyscrapers here in Hudson Yards. One is at 35 Hudson Yards, which was the premium, super exclusive, and super expensive building. Prices here range from $5 million for a 2-bedroom apartment up to $59 million for a penthouse unit. Then there's 15 Hudson Yards, which was a bit more of an affordable complex, but still loaded with amenities. 15 Hudson Yards has done well. Mansion Global reported at this point they're actually about 90% sold out. 35 Hudson Yards, on the other hand, only about half of their 143 luxury condos are sold. We are now at 4 years since sales launched at this building. It's gotta be a stressful situation when you're a developer of a project at this scale. You know, a big part of their underwriting process is that they would sell a certain number of these condo units at a certain price within a certain window of time. Related was one of the biggest developers in the game, but still, the holding costs on a project of this size are going to be off the charts until they can pay down some of their debts by selling more units. The issue at 35 Hudson Yards is not just the fact that only half of the units in there have sold at this point, it's that the remaining units that are for sale are starting to be offered at really big discounts. Check this chart out. Another shout out to Mansion Global for putting this out. This unit 7703 was listed for $15.73 million. It ended up selling for $8.5 million. Unit 8501 was listed for $27.5 million. It sold for $15.9. Penthouse unit PH90 was listed for $59 million. It sold for a whopping $14 million discount at only $35 million. Unit 5301 listed for $10 million. It sold for $6 million. You guys get the point. This is clearly a serious financial blow to the developer, that's for sure. But it's also a reputational blow because if you think about it, somebody who paid, let's say, $10 million for a 50th floor unit just 4 years ago, if they see their neighbor's exact same unit sell for $6 million today, I don't know. Even though it's not their fault, if I was that owner, I'd probably have a little bit of resentment towards the developer. So according to Zillow, there are 19 units that are available for sale in 35 Hudson Yards right now, although we know there's way more that are actually available for sale. They just only put out so many at once. The prices range anywhere from $4.9 million all the way up to $13.85 million. And they're all listed by the Corcoran Group, it looks like, which I did reach out to those guys for comment, but unfortunately, I never heard back. Let's just skim through a few of these listings really quick just to kind of get a feel for what's going on in here and what this tower is offering. We'll start with this most affordable listing at $4.9 million. Okay, so this unit has got 2 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and about 2,100 square feet, so it's not a huge place. This one is on the 53rd floor, and obviously the views are amazing. Here's what you see out your dining room window, and you can kind of get a peek of what looks like probably an office tower over here to the left. That's just something that comes with the territory when you're living in New York. It's always a chance that you're gonna have an office building right out of your window, but I guess people there don't worry too much about privacy. That's what these shades are for. Pretty simple finish package in the kitchen, but I kind of like it. And then what is probably the primary bedroom has this big support column running through it, which seems like an eyesore, but it does give you some privacy from the office building over there, so that's kind of cool. Next, down here we have a unit that's pending. I think this might be the only one that's pending for $6 million. Let's check this one out. So this unit is 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and 2,500 square feet, so it is a bit larger than the other one. Says this home has a pending offer, and based on the unit number, this one sits on the 54th floor, so it's only 1 floor higher than the other. Much different views past your dining room table in this unit. Pretty cool off your living room. You've got a view out to One World Trade Center right there. Here's a little breakfast nook. I could definitely picture myself drinking coffee here every morning. I think it's the exact same finish package in the kitchen, and what is that, 4 ovens? Not bad. And way better views from the bedroom as well in this one. You're not looking right out at that office tower. Okay, so I think we can understand why that one is pending and under contract. The views are way better and the unit is a little bit bigger. Last, let's just check out the most expensive unit in the building because why not? This one they're asking $13.85 million. It's got 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, 4,600 square feet, and check this out, I didn't notice this on the other ones, $14,964 per month for HOA fees. Turns out this place has a pending offer as well. Let's check out the photos. So I think the views in this one are south facing just like the last one, and look at the size of this living room and that wall of windows. Awesome. You got a telescope just so you can look at the teeny little taxis and people on the ground level, I guess. Here's your office in this unit. Some funky wallpaper in the dining room, but it's actually pretty cool. There is a different finish package in the kitchen of this one. Such a small kitchen. I mean, there might be a chef's kitchen behind this room or something, I don't know, but it's always funny to me seeing the kitchens in New York City on a $14 million unit. I mean, if you look at the kitchen in a $14 million house out here in Arizona, it would literally be like 5 times the size. Oh, that's cool. So in the primary bedroom, you've got the windows that kind of curve around the building. And then here you can see in the floor plan, so yep, this unit definitely follows the curves of the building. So you've got views out in basically every direction other than north. I really do believe, guys, that the developer did everything that they could to ensure that this project was a smashing success from the beginning. They took over a troubled site that was kind of on the outskirts of Manhattan and previously was obviously not a destination for locals or tourists. They turned that site into a world-renowned destination, totally changing the landscape of this old train yard. And then they put together a world-class team to pull this thing off. The development itself is aesthetically almost as great as it can be. I love to see big investment groups like this pushing the boundaries of design, architecture, and luxury living. Unfortunately for some of them though, they just get caught up building at the wrong time and in the wrong market. I'll see you guys next time.